to the channel. I'm back to break down this 6-game slate on DraftKings and FanDuel. Before we get into it, I have released multiple MLB packages over there on Patreon. I have released a DFS package as well as an MLB betting package. If you're interested in one of these, you can get access to things like my pitcher data sheet that you see on the screen behind me, my hot hitter StatCast data tool, my team hitting data tool, my bullpen data, my power rankings, and my cheat sheet. Where I break down my top plays of the slate and I break things down by price tier for you guys so that you can kind of look at my cheat sheet, see which guys I like and which price ranges, and finish out your lineups. So a bunch of tools to help you become a better MLB DFS player and help your daily fantasy lineups. And then I've also gone ahead and released a merch store over there on Teespring. If you're interested, go ahead and check that out. We can get access to anything KJK DFS apparel. I got a bunch of stuff, shirts, pillows, you name it. If you're interested, go ahead and check that out. And then lastly, you can follow me over on Twitter at KJK_DFS. And with that being said, let's go ahead and start breaking down this slate today. So as always, I like to go ahead and figure out the pitchers on the slate with the top strikeout rate. It's fantasy sports, so we get points for strikeouts. And the top guy on the slate today is that Max Scherzer. No surprise there because anytime Max Scherzer is on the slate, he's most likely going to be the top guy in strikeout rate. Just an absolute stud. He's got a 34.6% K rate. Against righties, it's a 38% K rate, and then against lefties, it drops down to a 31. And I say drops down, still very, very impressive. So yeah, he's Max Scherzer, definitely top option on the slate. And when looking at the Vegas lines, there actually isn't any lines out yet, so can't reflect on that. But I will say that with Max Scherzer's strikeout rate and his opponent in the Tampa Bay Rays, while the Tampa Bay Rays do have a good lineup, they are up there in the strikeout category as far as their strikeout rate as a team. So I do think that we can go ahead and target Max Scherzer today with some confidence. Number one pitcher on the slate, no doubt, top priority, and you will want to get him in your lineups if at all possible and at any cost. So yeah, Scherzer clearly the number one option today. Moving further along, second guy on the list is that Nelson Lament. He comes in with a 32.9% K rate. Against righties, he has a 35.4% K rate, and against lefties, it's a 30.7%. So another elite K rate guy taking on the Colorado Rockies. And when looking at the Vegas lines in this game, you can see he comes in as a 200 favorite. His team's got a 4.68 implied total, while the Rockies are only implied to score 3.32. So Lament, definitely my second option on the slate. I like him a lot. While the Rockies aren't the top matchup, they're not bottom in the league with strikeout rate, but when you're looking at Lament's numbers, he's pretty much matchup proof when it comes to the strikeout category because he's got that high K rate. So even if he's facing a team that doesn't strike out a ton, he can kind of break some barriers and get some strikeouts anyway. So definitely have interest in Lament today. And then this is where things get interesting because I would say my third option without even blinking an eye is that in Zach Gallen taking on the San Francisco Giants. Gallen comes in with a 28.4% K rate. He's got a 29.5% K rate against the righties. And then against the lefties, he has a 27.3% K rate. And these Giants really don't strike out, but their lineup is very weak. So, and then once again, when you're looking at Gallen's strikeout rate, he is good enough to where he can kind of break through some barriers and get some strikeouts anyway. Because he does have that elite K stuff. So while they don't strike out a ton, I still think he can go out there and put on a good performance. And then when they're putting the ball in play, I think he's going to limit the hard contact, get those ground balls, pitch effectively throughout this game, and get a lot of innings pitched for you. So, those are definitely my top options. They're definitely standing out the most on the slate. And then I was just about to say, this is when things get interesting because there are other options, of course. I mean, it's only a 6-game slate, so we're not dealing with a ton of this isn't like a 10-gamer like we've been seeing a lot lately. In this MLB season, there's been a lot of bigger slates, so it's kind of a smaller one. So we're going to have to figure out ways to differentiate ourselves and figure out ways to be contrarian in our lineups. And, when breaking down the next few guys I would target, I would say I probably have 3 more guys on my list that I'd be willing to play. 3 or 4, but around that range. I mean, the first guy is probably that in Ryu taking on the New York Yankees. He has a 24.6% K rate, and he's not exactly a good an elite K rate pitcher, for fantasy sports, but he's a very good real life pitcher. He's very effective at keeping the ball on the ground, and he is taking on this New York Yankees team who kind of has their B squad out there right now, and I think he can rack up some strikeouts, even though he doesn't have the highest strikeout rate. The only thing we got to keep an eye on is the weather. It's looking like we might have some rain issues. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. Any of my Patreon members, go ahead and check out in the Discord chat later if you have any questions on this weather and where I'm feeling about it later in the day. Go ahead and ask, and I'll fill you in, because that's obviously a question mark right now looking at this. But if we're good weather-wise, Ryu, definitely a guy to have interest in. And while these Yankees can slug, the strikeouts are there. So I would have interest in the Yankees bats as well. So you got to kind of pick which side you're on. But Ryu is definitely a guy. And then, the last two options are in this last, one of the last games of the slate in the Christian Javier and Frankie Montas. And this is when, we can start breaking down our matchups and give you some specific reasoning as to why I like this guy today, because Christian Javier is a guy I think that is a good option today. When looking at his numbers, the ground ball, the fly ball stuff's been very bad. The walk rate's been very bad, and the swinging strike rate hasn't really been there, but the strikeout rate's pretty decent. And what's really standing out to me is his numbers against right-handed hitting. He's got a 30.8% K rate against righties. And then against lefties, it drops down to a 17.5, and he's been very, very bad against lefties. He's giving up a ton of hard contact. He can't get them out. So he's very effective against right-handed hitting. While the fly ball and the ground ball rate's still not there, the slugging, the WOBA, the hard hit rate, the walk rate, and the K rate are pretty good. They're standing out, really standing out in the WOBA, the hard, and the slugging, and then really standing out in the K rate, actually. So anyways, enough of the rambling. My point is he's very effective against right-handed hitting, and when he's taking on this Oakland Athletics team, they have added Tommy LaStella, so that's another lefty threat at the top of the order. And they do have Madelson in the middle. And then you got Grossman and those three lefties at the bottom of the order. But Oakland is bottom three in the league in strikeouts. So I think that Christian Javier is actually a good option today. I think he can be sneaky, and I think you could probably get him lower owned than a guy like Dinelson Lament, or maybe even Frankie Montas, who we're going to talk about next. Frankie, coming in at an 8K price tag. I promise he's the last pitcher we'll talk about before we get into the bats we like today. And he's taking on the Houston Astros, who isn't exactly the most ideal matchup, but he's got a 21.7% K rate, 20.8 against righties, and then a 22.5% against lefties. And so he's just pretty, mediocre across the board. But I had mentioned that we are going to have to be contrarian on the slate, and maybe throw in some guys that we aren't fully all in and on the spot, but just to be a little different. And I think Frankie's that guy because he comes in at an 8K price tag, and he's taking on the Houston Astros, who is a team that nobody ever wants to target. So if you go ahead and play Frankie, you're probably going to get him some low ownership, and he can be a game changer for you if he goes out there and puts on a good performance. And then you factor in that he's a minus 154 favorite taking on these Houston Astros, and that can make you like him even more, because the fact that they're favored against the Astros, like I said, if it's a team that people don't like to target, but Frankie's actually favored in this game, so that could be a way of thinking about it, being contrarian and just playing the favorited pitcher. Have him go out there, get credit for that win, have him rack up some strikeouts against the Astros, and have him be low owned. I do think that he is an option. So yeah, that's my ramble on Frankie. And with that being said, let's go ahead and start breaking down some bats. Enough of the pitching. We got to figure out some bats we want to play. And when looking at bats that I want to target, my favorite thing to do, if you've tuned into my other videos, you know this, but if you haven't, you're new to the channel, I like to look at Sierra, which is Scale Interactive ERA. I like to go ahead and sort my sheet by Sierra, figure out the worst on the slate in the Sierra category, and go ahead and figure out, those are the guys we want to target. And the worst on the slate today is that in Brad Keller. He comes with a 4.9 Sierra. He's got a 17.2 K rate and an 8.6 swinging strike rate. He also has a walk issue with 9.4%. I'm looking at his splits. He's pretty effective against right-handed hitting, and lefties same. So he's very. I don't want to say very good, but he is very respectable in the ground ball, the fly ball, the WOBA, the hard hit rate, and the slugging. He's not giving up a ton of hard contact or anything like that. But the thing is, he has a low Sierra because he's constantly letting the ball be put in play, and when he's facing good lineups, you're going to want to have interest in targeting him because the ball is going to be put in play. He's not going to be blowing the ball past guys, and this Cleveland Indians lineup is a lineup that's solid up and down, so that's where the appeal comes in. They come in with a 5.08 implied team total. That's 215 favorites, And, we're just going to want to target the best hitters in this lineup, right in the middle of the order. The guys with the power, the guys that can get the job done for us in the fantasy point category. So, our top options are Jose Ramirez, Francisco Lindor, Carlos Santana, and Franmil Reyes. That would be my top stack, if at all possible. If I had to fit in only 4 guys in this lineup, those would definitely be the 4. But then you can go ahead and fill out your stack with these guys at the bottom of the order, because these guys do have some power, some talent, and they're all very cheap. So something I mentioned a lot that I don't think is talked about enough in MLB DFS is when a team has a high implied run total, everyone's going to want to target, the obvious candidates in Jose Ramirez and Francisco Lindor. But sometimes it's something that can be sneaky is to just go ahead and stack up the bottom of the order, get some salary relief, get some exposure to a team with a high implied run total, and then you can fit, elite pitching in your lineup. So something to think about. So definitely have interest in these Cleveland Indians. They're top of the list as far as bats to target today. Next on the list is probably something that will surprise most people. So I think we can go ahead and target Zach Plesac on the Cleveland Indians. And I think that this Kansas City Royals team will probably be very low owned. So a good sneaky spot to look into here. Plesac not good against righties in the hard hit, the slugging, and the WOBA. And then against lefties, he is more respectable. So we do prefer to target him with right-handed hitters if at all possible. And when looking at this Kansas City Royals team, that you got guys like Whit Merrifield, Hunter Dozier, Maikel Franco, Ryan McBroom, and then the rest are lefties, but you can still go ahead and throw in some lefties to finish out your stack, because if he's getting knocked around by these righties and these lefties come up, they're going to have opportunity, and then if they can knock him out of the game, they're going to have to face the bullpen. So I do recommend stacking an MLB DFS. That's how you optimize your lineups. That's how you get the most upside. If you're playing in tournaments, you need guys to hit other guys in on your lineups. You need RBIs. You need home runs. You need, the list goes on and on. You get credit for the runs. You get credit for the RBIs. You get credit for the stolen bases that these guys are getting on. So yeah, it's always a good idea to be stacking in tournaments, in my opinion. And I think that these Kansas City Royals can give you a sneaky stack today. So they're next on the list, more on the sneaky side. But as far as the Sierra, and then a far less sneaky stack, but one that you have to have a ton of interest in, is this San Diego Padres team taking on Kyle Freeland. You can see Freeland's numbers in the WOBA, the hard hitter, and the slugging against righties are not good, and then against lefties he's very good. So we do like to target him with right-handed bats. And these Padres have some right-handed bats that slug left-handed pitching. So yeah, I am going to like these righties a lot. I love Fernando Tatis. I love Manny Machado. They are priced up, and they're priced up for a reason, because they're studs and they're in an absolute great spot today. So those 2 guys, top of my list. Austin Nola, Will Myers, like a lot. You can throw in Jorge Mateo as a salary relief guy, and then we got Jurickson Profar, the switch hitter. And Trent Grisham's at the bottom of the order projected, because they're taking on the lefty, and he's very expensive. While he does crush right-handed pitching, being that he's priced up like that, in his typical leadoff role, I'm not going to play him in the 9 hole at 4-9. I'm sorry, but I mean, if you want to get cute in tournaments and say I'm going to play him, no one's going to own him, and he goes out there and hits 2 home runs, all the power to you, because it is a small slate, and maybe that will pay off. But that's getting a little too cute in my opinion, and not something I'm going to do today. So really like the righties in this lineup for these Padres. They are top of the slate in stacks. And then when we're moving further along, we have Christian Javier and Frankie Montas in this game, but that's actually not the next spot I'm going to target. The next spot that I think is actually interesting, because we do have to be contrarian. We have to find spots to be different. And Charlie Morton here he's the second best pitcher on the slate in Sierra, but he has been struggling this year, and he's taking on a Washington Nationals team who has a very good lineup, and their strikeout rate isn't very high. So, being that Charlie Morton, relies on strikeouts to be getting people out, and these Washington Nationals don't really strike out, you could definitely go ahead and have a ton of interest in these Nationals. It's looking like Juan Soto's not going to crack the lineup, which is a little bit of a downside, because he is the top elite bat on the team. But, that's just going to make the stack cheaper. So I do want to mention these guys as where it's only a 6-game slate. We have to find ways to be different. I do think that you can go ahead and stack these guys up. And when looking at Morton's numbers, and specifically against splits, you can see he's very, very good against right-handed hitting, but lefties is actually where it gets a little interesting, because he's got a lot of yellow and orange going on there. So for an elite name and an elite guy, you can go ahead and stack up some lefties against Charlie Morton, be contrarian, and actually like it because, you know, just factoring in his recent struggles and factoring in that these guys are going to be loaned and factoring in that it's only a 6-game slate. I do think that I can promote this. I think I made it clear why, but, you know, throwing like an Adam Eaton, an Asdrubal Cabrera, a Brock Holt for those lefties, and then throwing the best hitters in the lineup in the righties and guys like Victor Robles, Trey Turner, and Howie Kendrick. And then you can fill in the catcher spot with Kurt Suzuki, and you have salary relief at the bottom of the order as well with the top prospect in Carter Kieboom, and Michael Taylor's only minimum salary. So, combination of, you know, wanting the lefties, obviously, against Morton. We do prefer the lefties, so you want to get those guys in first, but then you can fill in those other guys to round out your stacks. And then we'll go ahead and cover one more spot on today's slate to target. And I think that last spot's actually going to be in this this Toronto Blue Jays Yankees game. I had mentioned, you know, Ryu, and I had mentioned, you know, you can definitely have interest in these Yankees because they can crush left-handed pitching. But I'm not going to talk about the Yankees. I'm going to talk about the Toronto Blue Jays right now because they get to take on Jordan Montgomery. And when looking at Montgomery's numbers, you know, he is below average really across the board. He has a 4.79 ERA, not the greatest, worst on the slate. And against righties, he gives up a 520 slugging, and he has a 371 WOBA, not good. So that's where my interest starts to really increase, and that's what's really popping on my sheet to me today. And then against lefties, he's absolutely elite, you know, just phenomenal against lefties. But the righties, you know, he's not good. He has a 520 slugging. That's not good. That's not going to get the job done. That's very bad. And looking at this Toronto Blue Jays lineup, they do have some righties that crush left-handed pitching, so we can start our stacks with Randall Grichuk, Vladdy Jr., Lourdes Gurriel, Jonathan VR, and Danny Jansen. And then you got Aspinall at the bottom of the lineup for some salary relief. So I do think that these Toronto Blue Jays are in a good spot today, you know, specifically the righties. I would not play any lefties. If you want to go ahead and toss in like Kevon Biggio at the top of the lineup because he's just a good hitter and he's at the top of the lineup, and, you know, if they knock out Montgomery, they can get to the bullpen. I get that. But it is worth noting the Yankees notoriously do have a good bullpen. But that's kind of being nitpicky. I would still stack these Blue Jays because we have a small slate, and I think they're in a good spot taking on Montgomery as a starter. So that is my overall breakdown of today's 6-game slate on DraftKings and FanDuel. Let's do a quick little rundown of what I've gone over so far. Well, first, Max Scherzer, absolute top option on the slate. Get him in your lineups at all costs. Really like him today. I would recommend throwing in some national stacks and tournaments, taking on Charlie Morton. I think it'll be contrarian, and I think it's a good way to set you apart from the field. I think it could pay off. These Cleveland Indians, I have a lot of interest in their bats. You know, obviously the elite names, but at the bottom of the order, you can throw for some salary relief. And then I had mentioned that Zach Plesac has some issues against right-handed hitting. So for these Royals, you can go ahead and stack up like a Whit Merrifield, a Hunter Dozier, and a Maikel Franco, and then Ryan McBroom, and feel good about their power and, you know, the splits that they're taking on in Plesac. Ryu is definitely a pitching option taking on the Yankees, but his K upside can be limited, so just a little bit disclaimer there. However, the Yankees are throwing out their B squad, and while they can slug, they do have a lot of strikeouts in their lineup, so something to keep in mind there. And I do have interest in these right-handed Toronto Blue Jays bats. Like them a lot today. Grichuk, Vladdy Jr., Lourdes Gurriel, you know, my main targets. And then you could throw in a Jonathan VR and Danny Jansen, and then an Espinal at the bottom of the order for salary relief. Zach Gallen is in a tremendous spot taking on the San Francisco Giants. While they don't strike out a ton, he is going into San Francisco. He gets a big park upgrade from Arizona. And, you know, they're just not a threatening lineup, and Zach Gallen's got good K stuff. So at 9-2, he's a good pitching option. I think Frankie, Montas, and Christian Javier are both decent pitching options. You know, not like top of the slate or anything, but guys you can throw in the mid-range and mix up your lineups to be contrarian, and definitely have interest in those guys today. And then you could go ahead and have some interest in these bats in this game as well. But I tend to think it's going to be just kind of like the runs are going to be there, but they're going to be kind of singles and doubles type of deal for a DFS. Not really interested. But I do have a lot of interest in this last spot in the San Diego Padres because I do think they're going to be in a great spot for DFS and specifically these right-handed hitters because Freeland's very good against lefties. So Tatis, Manny Machado, top options on the slate. Austin Nola, Will Myers, Jorge Mateo for some salary relief, and then you could throw in Jurickson Profar. And then I had mentioned, no, I would not play Trent Grisham because he's 4'9". He's projected to be at the bottom of the order, and he does crush righties, but lefties, you know, not so hot. And then Freeland, we'd already talked about his numbers against lefties, so. Yeah, that's my overall breakdown of today's slate. I appreciate you guys tuning into the video. If you like the content, you're going to be tuning in for future videos. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you'll be notified of new videos I make. I wish you all the best of luck tonight, and have a good one.